Okay, we've got a very special episode number 24, Wings Up Weekly Tennessee Tech Athletics video podcast. If you've been following along, anytime we have a full house like this, it usually is a big deal. That is certainly the case today. It is our fourth social justice-based episode and our second one detailing one of Tennessee Tech's newest student organizations, Code Center of Diversity Education. We had four founding members of Code on about a little over a month ago, spanning four different sports. They let us know how Code started, what actions have been taken in creating effective change in the areas of social and racial injustice. Also let us know kind of the vision, some of the goals in the context of the Tennessee Tech Athletics Department, the university as a whole, and then obviously the Cookeville community landscape as well. A lot of good things that Code is doing. The foundation has been set, but as we were also made aware in that first episode, really just the tip of the iceberg. So it feels like as good a time as any to hear an update and hear some of the things that Code is doing, what progress has been made, and what strides this great organization is taking. Before we get to all that, first things first, let's get to the introductions. We have four student athletes joining us today for this episode. Chandler Caldwell, a junior on the softball team. Chandler, great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We have Lyn'Nikka Vance, a sophomore on the Golden Eagle track and field team. Lyn'Nikka, great to see you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Thanks for coming on. We have a sophomore from the men's basketball team, Dane Quest. Dane, how are you? Great to see you today.
Doing good. How are you? Great to see you, man.
Doing great. And then last but not least, the graduate manager for the Golden Eagle men's basketball team is Ezra Pinzur. Thanks for coming on, Ezra. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, man. Excited to be talking about Code.
All right. Well, we've introduced everybody at this time. I think it'd be appropriate to turn it over to Dane Quest. Dane, you were on our first social justice episode here on Wings Up Weekly back in June. You kind of let us know of this potential idea of Code. I'll go back to some of the things you said, the necessity for a student athlete-based organization similar to SAC, but having this communal effort of togetherness, and then really as what you said, strategizing for ways to make bold and decisive action in the areas of trying to create effective change. How much is Code mirrored what you visioned back in June? And then if you can kind of take us through some of the progress that the organization has made over the last month.
Yeah, absolutely. Back in June, when I had the opportunity to be on the podcast, like you said, I was able to mention a student athlete governed organization similar to SAC, but we're more so focusing on the world issues that are going on today. I felt like back in that time, there was a collective desire for student athletes, particularly student athletes of color, to sort of channel their hurt and their anguish as to what was going on in the world. Around that time, there was the murder of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, among others. And so I think everybody was looking for a place to turn. That episode of that podcast where I was with members of my team and members of the women's basketball team, I think that served as like a microcosm for what Code will eventually become. Just essentially a space where we can come together, talk about issues that have been plaguing our society. And right now, Code is really blossomed into an organic space for action. So where student athletes can unite under an athletic platform, we are challenged as leaders, where we're challenging ourselves as leaders, and we're also holding our teammates and our coaching staff from our respective teams accountable to just foster an environment that is equitable and representative for student success. So we've been able to bridge that gap for all students from all teams. And it's honestly, outside of just talking about world issues, it's actually a great time to build a sense of community, a sense of camaraderie among everybody, especially with COVID and with the pandemic taking over and just changing humanity together. We haven't had a lot of time to really interact with one another. And so we meet once a week and we get to see each other's faces and and that's been really cool. It's been really refreshing to have. So, and as far as the progress, like you said, or like you asked, we've had well, the past couple of weeks have been crazy with people in quarantine and things of that nature. But I think overall we've made significant strides. Um, Having a march, having a demonstration for the racial injustice or the racial unrest that has devastated our country. Going to elementary schools, going to middle schools, and we're working towards going to a high school right now, and we're facilitating events so that we can encourage people of color, students, high school students of color, to come to Tennessee Tech and blossom and succeed here. So there's been a lot going on. There's been a lot of progress being made, but I know we have a lot more room for growth that I'm excited for.
That's great stuff right there. Appreciate you sharing a lot of the impactful things that the organization is doing, and we'll continue to have that discussion throughout this episode. I think right now we'll turn it over to Chandler Caldwell, and we'll talk about membership. In early October, when we had the first episode with Code, membership was, I believe, in the low to mid 20s. Chandler, what is the membership up to right now with Code?
I think we're up to like the mid 40s, which is amazing to think that we have that many people in support of our mission. And the thing is, those are the members in Code, but there's so many other people outside of the organization that are in support of Code. So I think that it's a testament to that we're on the right track with where we're taking this organization. And the number grew really fast, which I think that proves that this organization was something that people needed. And yeah, it's just cool to think about that many people have found their place.
And you kind of touched on it right there about how fast the membership is growing. I mean, practically doubling its membership. Why do you feel that, I mean, that seems very important. Why do you feel that that's a significant thing?
I think a lot of people have been wanting this organization, but like Dane was saying, because of some of the civil unrest, this gave more of a push for them to find an organization to be a part of and make a difference. So, yeah.
All right, well, great stuff. And we appreciate you letting us know that the membership is thriving and continuing to grow. Kind of along those same lines, and we'll bring Ezra Pinzur into this conversation right now. When we spoke back and had the first episode in October, a big thing was making Code a registered student organization. And we heard a lot about what goes in. Chanel Bishop of the track team was kind of letting us know all of the things that had to happen: a letter of justification, constitution, having at least 10 founding members, a faculty representative, so many other things. Ezra, I know that you have had a role along with some other people in making some of that literature, getting this process going. Where is that process at right now? Are you guys at the finish line of being a registered student organization?
It's a really exciting thing to talk about right now for us, because as a matter of fact, JT and Dr. Baker, who graciously agreed to be our faculty rep, actually went in front of the administrative council about a week ago. Basically, they review your constitution, your justification of needs, and everything that you have to present when you are looking to become an organization. And they have to defend that, essentially. And as we expected, as we anticipated, they defended it effectively, because our organization has been approved and Code is an official Tennessee Tech establishment now. It's recognized as a student organization, and that's really exciting. It's really exciting for us, and hopefully it's good for the school to have an organization filling that gap. You know, as we had the opportunity to write up a constitution and to write up a justification for need, it's really a good thing to do, because when you're writing it up, you realize this is just what we're going to do. And you're talking about, there is no student-led organization for athletes that's not controlled by a coach or an administrator. And student athletes are the most diverse group on campus, and quite likely the most diverse group in Cookeville, in our town. And so it's really exciting when you're coming up with those documents to just kind of confirm this is exactly what we need. This is what we're here to do. And it's no surprise that the administrative council wanted Code to be a part of this school and an official organization.
It seems very significant to be able to have Code be an official registered student organization. Ezra, before we kind of move on from you, what does you think that means for all of its members, and then maybe some future members to know, like, this is legitimate, we have passed a lot of hurdles, we have gotten to this point where we are an official registered organization?
Yeah, well, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head when you said showing that it's legitimate. I think it does two things. First and foremost, it shows that, we are about this. We are a serious organization. We are on campus, we are off campus, and we are getting things done in both of those aspects. And so it encourages people like, yeah, maybe this is something I need to look into. It's reasonable to wonder about something like Code the first time you hear it. And if somebody sees, oh, this is an official Tennessee Tech organization, hopefully that will inspire more people to check us out, to want to come over and to want to get involved. And secondly, I think it also just legitimates what we are to ourselves, showing, hey, when we get together, when we put a goal in front of us, there's people who want to come help us, and there's ways that we get this done. And that's really exciting. Just seeing that we can put our mind to something, there's going to be so many people who are going to come in line with us and accomplishing that goal.
Well, thank you, Ezra. A lot of great information there. Code, so far we've learned membership nearly doubling, official registered student organization. We'll get into some of the action right now, and we'll bring into the conversation Lyn'Nikka Vance. We heard Dane, Lyn'Nikka, talk about the peaceful march that Code had. That was something that in the October podcast episode was introduced to all of us. It happened on October 15th. It was all over Code social media. It seemed like a great turnout. It took place on the campus of Tennessee Tech. What can you tell us about that peaceful march and why that was important?
The march, it went really good. The turnout was a lot bigger than what we expected. And it wasn't just student athletes there. There were also many faculty members and other students that showed up and asked us questions about like Code and how everything was going. And although JT couldn't be there with us, all the Code members really like stepped up to the plate and made sure that everything like ran smooth for the march. And having this march, it was really important because this was like the first step. This was us showing the community and showing the campus that we weren't all talk and that we're actually going to put action behind everything that we were saying and that we actually want to make a change in the community.
Well, that's just awesome to hear. Chandler, maybe we'll go to you now. Why did you feel that march was so important, and just to see the numbers and the presence of Code on this campus?
Yeah, so I know there's a couple of universities that they had their own like social reform type thing in their school, but we've never really done one. So I thought it was really cool that the students and specifically the student athletes led it. I love to be a part of things that are like way bigger than myself. So to see like there was me and literally a sea of people that were in full support of the same thing that I was, it was really, really just cool to be a part of.
It really seems that way, and with all of the social media dedicated toward that day, a lot of great stuff to see that. Another important aspect of all of this, and you guys have mentioned JT, Jamal Thompson, a huge leader in Code, a huge leader in all of this. He had the opportunity to work with, as this organization Code has, local law enforcement. He met with the Cookeville Chief of Police, Randy Evans. They had, by all accounts, just a very productive, great meeting. Jamal also let us know in the last Social Justice Code podcast episode about a class that can be registered at Tennessee Tech. Dane, what more can you tell us now, a month and change later, about this class with the local law enforcement?
Yeah. Well, JT and Dr. Baker, I know you're probably watching this, so shout out to you guys for working tirelessly for putting this class together, so that we can all sort of bridge the gap and talk about law enforcement, and just trying to bridge the gap between and create the partnership between law enforcement and civilians. Right now, we've reached full capacity with the amount of students in the class. So Chief Evans will be spearheading the class, and throughout the semester, he'll be having members of law enforcement come in and talk about a wide variety of topics that Code and its members have discussed over the past several weeks. Some of those topics include police brutality, street checks, police training and education, and then we'll also get into it, what Ezra said, actually doing a traffic stop and simulating that. And yeah, and I think the importance of that will also, I think, have both perspectives. So we have a perspective from the student. We can allow the students are allowed to share, their experiences and their thoughts on certain things. And so the police officers will be able to evaluate themselves and assess their training, evaluate themselves, and so that they can better serve the community and ensure that there's public safety. And also the police officers can do their part in educating us so that there can be crime prevention, and so that we know what to do in certain situations. So I think having both perspectives will definitely just enhance the relationship altogether, which is what we're trying to do. We're trying to build trust between law enforcement and civilians.
A crucial component in all of this, as not just related to Code and Cookeville and Tennessee Tech, but across the country, that relationship with law enforcement. Dane, we'll continue with you. You kind of like touched on it earlier, but Campus PD is coming to speak with Code this weekend as well, correct?
Yeah, that's right. And well, Jamal and Dr. Baker and myself have talked extensively about that. And two police officers actually, after a Code meeting, were outside, and JT and I, we approached them, and they were at a Man Up meeting, and Man Up is led by Dr. Rob and Multicultural Affairs. They have it every Monday, or every other Monday for that matter. So they were there at the Man Up meeting probably about 2 months ago, and it was them and other members of law enforcement, and they were just trying to have a conversation. But I think the conversation during Man Up was, there weren't really a lot of questions. There wasn't really a lot of engagement between members of law enforcement and students. And I feel like with Campus PD coming and the numbers that we have, I think it'll be a little bit more intimate. I think students will feel a little bit more empowered to ask questions and possibly to challenge members of law enforcement and their thinking. So I'm really excited about that, and I know that members of Code are excited as well.
Well, awesome stuff, and thank you for kind of peeling back the curtain and letting us know all that. So as we continue to hear some of the great action that Code is taking, Lyn'Nikka, one of the main elements in all of this that we've seen from the get-go, again, anyone that's following along Code's social media presence has seen the amount of times that this organization has gone to local schools, local elementary schools, local middle schools. That has seemed to be such an impactful part in all of this, mentoring those youth in a lot of these issues and stuff. So Lyn'Nikka, what has your experience been like going to these schools? Why do you feel like this is such a critical part in all of this?
I feel like it's a critical part because when you reach like children and people that's younger, it's easy to like, they're more open to things. than older people. And I don't know how many people of like different races they like see throughout the day or throughout their lives and different things like that. But if we interact with them at a young age, then they see that like not all people of color or people of different races are like bad or like different from them and things like that. And my experience with them has been really positive. They just love to play and be all over you and hug on you and things like that. And you can just talk to them and get to know them, and it just broadened their horizon when it comes to other people.
And maybe you can answer this, or maybe someone else can answer this. If not, how long has now this been going on for? It seems that you guys have made a consistent effort to continue to go back to the schools, and it's not just, hey, here and there, but it's been a regular and routine thing. Well, Dane, are you aware of, or can you kind of let us know maybe what that's been like?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think ever since we came back to school, one of the things that we wanted to do was to go to elementary schools, go to middle schools, and right now we're like I mentioned, we're working at going to a high school so that we can target different groups and engage with them and create change that way. So yeah, ever since we came back, we've been going. So we've been going to Baxter Elementary School on Fridays. We've implemented All Good Middle on Wednesdays into our schedule, and hopefully on Mondays, when when our schedules can, if our schedules work, that we can have like a high school right now. But right now we're focusing on those two schools. But I think it's been very exciting, and like Lyn'Nikka said, just creating that engagement and letting them know that we are truly invested and we want to pour into them, and that we're not whatever they see. Because I mean, I'm sure these kids pick up on a lot of things, and we are not. I mean, student athletes of color, we're not what you never know what their parents might tell them, or what the TV might tell them. So I think it's important for them, and we're dropping little seeds, dropping little nuggets, so that they can be the best they can be going forward.
That presence within the community significant. We've heard the presence on Tennessee Tech's campus. Part of that feels like collaborating with other student organizations and in some of those efforts. Ezra, maybe you can help us out here, speak on the collaboration with other student organizations, if that's been going on, or maybe what some of the goals of that might be going forward to get other student organizations along with Code involved in this as well.
Yeah, so obviously one of the biggest goals that we talk about with Code, that we marched about with Code, is unity, and the idea of diversity coming together and us being different and us looking different, not meaning that we can't be unified, that we can't be united. And so naturally, a next step would be to realize, no, we are not the only group on campus who's striving to educate and to try to help the minorities on our campus to feel better, to feel more welcome, and to address some of the issues that they are working with. And what that looks like going forward, obviously, coming out of the most recent push for social justice with George Floyd, with Breonna Taylor, the Black Student Union, the BSU, has been kicking off an initiative much similar to ours. And that's something we're aware of. JT has been involved with them, and that's something that's exciting to have our leader and the guy that's heading up Code put his hand in with them and saying, yes, I want to help you guys. Let's get this thing going as well. They're doing much the same that we are, where we are focusing on a subgroup of campus with athletes, and that's our mission and that's our goal. What they're doing is trying to reach the entire campus, and that's really exciting. Obviously, SAC is an organization that's present on every campus. It's required by the NCAA, and they do great work with closed drives, with addressing issues on campus and giving student athletes voices. And so I think that the first step is obviously communication. It's knowing what these people are doing and what these organizations are. And that's certainly something that we're aware of. And that's something we need to continue to improve at. And while that's something that we've certainly gotten underway, I think the next step and something that we would need to look into is saying, these are these common goals that we have. We want this unity. We want to enhance the experience on campus for everyone, and especially minorities, and saying, we have this common goal. We need to get together to say, what are your strengths in your organization, and what are our strengths, and what can each of us do to drive home these goals?
Thank you, Ezra. Chandler, maybe you can also kind of build on what Ezra said as well, and why you feel that that is significant to collaborate, as Ezra said, communicate with these other student organizations, and what that might do for Code and Code's presence.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, we all have basically a very generally we have the same end goal, and that's to make the world and the campus like the best it could possibly be. And with us having a sense of community among other organizations, I think it allows us to make more connections. So like one organization can help our organization out in different ways that we might not have been able to. I think it just allows things to, we can put things in action quicker.
Thank you, Chandler. And another piece of that action that has been discussed throughout today, obviously collaborating with other student organizations. Lyn'Nikka, we'll go back to you in terms of, there was an event that was just held, and you can kind of unpack this a little bit further. This is something that Jamal Thompson had told me about, but this race mentoring program, I understand that you and Dane were a part of this. So Lyn'Nikka, we'll go to you first. What can you tell us about this recent event?
Well, some local high schoolers came to walk around the campus and just see if they would like life at Tennessee Tech. So some of us were a part of it to help them to feel more comfortable, because most of them were like people of color. So we basically just showed them around and showed them that like they will see more people that look like them on this campus. And Dr. Baker did a great job of matching us up with people who had like the same major or interests as us. So we can talk to them because we've been in their shoes before. We probably going to see the same professors and things like that. Yeah, I think it was a pretty good experience to help out and just talk to them, answer whatever questions they had, and make them feel comfortable on campus.
It's just another way Code's presence, and we've hit on so many of the action points and a lot of the positive things that this organization is doing to try to create effective change. We're starting to head toward the finish line here on this podcast. And again, thank you, all of you, for joining us. What I think would be a good thing now is, we said all the things that Code is doing, but how about what Code is doing and has done for each of you and for each of its members? Dane, we'll start with you, as you've been one of the leaders throughout and started back in June in that first podcast episode that you were on. What has Code done for you in terms of maybe your individual and internal growth?
Yeah, Code has done wonders for me. I mean, personally, I'm going to be transparent with you. I'm normally the type of person that's reserved and quiet. So I'm not very outspoken, but I think being in a leadership position now has kind of forced my hand to really be vocal, challenge myself and challenge other people to want to create or facilitate the change that they want to see. I think for me, it's been good just to, and I mentioned this before, just to have all of these different teams together, have all these different athletic programs together. And it's made me forge bonds that way and made me learn from other people so that I can take it. I can be receptive to anything that they're saying, or, you know, how they go about things, what their leadership style is, and maybe I can implement it into mine so that I can be an effective leader, not only for them, but for the kids, and, you know, at elementary schools and middle schools, and throughout campus. So I think the growth that I've made is tremendous, and I think I can speak for everyone else, and I can see the growth. I feel everybody has a renewed sense of confidence. There's a fire within them. You know, when I talk to people, when I talk to, you know, members within the meeting, you know, we have people that don't normally say much, step out of their comfort zone, step out of their shell, and really reveal, you know, what they're feeling. So it's been eye-opening for me, and it's been a great learning experience as well, for everyone else too.
Thank you, Dane. Some great stuff right there. We'll continue that theme, continue that conversation as we go to Chandler right now. What has code being a part of it? I think you told me back since September. So for you, how has it positively impacted you personally?
It's done a lot for me. So code has definitely taken me out of my comfort zone, because I feel like just with how society is, there's a lot of negative stigma about women of color that speak up. And for a long time, I'll admit, like when I was in high school, I was scared. I didn't want to be associated with that, but I'm realizing how important it is for me to use my voice. Code's helped me it's made me realize how important my platform is. So I'm a student athlete, a woman of color, and I'm pursuing a degree in medicine. All those things, I feel like if I was younger and I had a multitude of women in those positions to look up to, I feel like I could have made some decisions differently. So now that I'm in this position, I feel like it is my duty to, help other kids of color, other younger girls, just everybody, basically. So, yeah.
Well, thank you, Chandler. Lyn'Nikka, I'll turn it to you now to get your thoughts on all of this. We've heard a lot today. We heard a lot on the last episode about this communal, almost family atmosphere that it seems that code has created and fostered. What sort of impact has all of that had on you specifically? What has code been able to do for you?
Yeah, code is like a safe place. Like we can talk about the things that we've been through, or the things that's going on within our week, or just if we had a hard practice, we can come and we can just discuss everything. And it's really just helped me to like open up, because I'm more reserved. I don't really talk to many people, but I've made a lot of friends on different sports teams, and I've just learned that my ideas and my opinions, they do matter, and that there are people around you who's going through the same things, and they will listen to you when you need someone to talk to, and just help you to open up and feel more welcome on this campus.
Well, thank you, Lyn'Nikka. Kind of hear from everybody. So Ezra, we'll hear from you right now in all this, but then if you could also sort of touch on, I mean, we are all dealing and handling the challenges of COVID right now. And of course, code is doing the same thing. So with everyone going through these unprecedented and challenging times, what sort of role do you think that code has had in that sort of context?
Yeah, well, first to address the impact that code has had on me, and it's something that is exciting to me personally, what I've been able to learn in being in these meetings and hearing my fellow students talk and the student athletes talk about what would you like to see. One of the most common, if not the most common theme with that has been, I just want people to address the issues. I want them to talk, whether it be a coach, whether it be a teammate, whether it be a family member. It's a simple request that is common almost across the board entirely. I would like to talk about it. And it seems so simple. And I thought, well, that's the easiest thing in the world, just talk. But I realized, I'm around student athletes every day. I'm at practice almost every day. And when I started thinking, well, how much have I talked about these things? Have me and Dane sat down and talked about racial injustice, what it looks like for him to be Black, what it looks like for me to be white? And before code, we hadn't. I mean, that's the simple answer. And so, well, it's easy to sit here and say, well, talking is easy. It's clear that it's not in a lot of ways, and it's something that's not happening. And code has given me a chance to talk about these issues, and it has encouraged me to go out and talk to others. And I think that's something that we all could learn from code, and it's something we all could apply. Shifting to the COVID issue that's so present, it's affected code. It's affected what we've been able to do, what it's looked like, what our meetings look like. We have a laptop set up every week with certain people in person talking, and then you have your people in Zoom chiming in. And I was in quarantine the last 2 meetings and missed them, or didn't miss them, but was on Zoom having to watch them. And so obviously it has affected what code has looked like. But what has happened is, regardless of the fact that we can't be around each other as much as we would like, regardless of the fact that, our leader, our founder, has been in quarantine for about a month straight, it seems like, and hasn't been able to see us in person, regardless of the fact that we've had a harder time getting into schools, that all has happened. We have met. We've become an official organization. We are in these schools talking with kids. We had a march. And it's really encouraging to know that even while we've had to adjust to maintain protocols for COVID, to try to keep people safe, that has in no way stopped what we have been trying to accomplish here. And looking into the future, we are going to keep doing what we have to do. We are going to know that there will still be people who are out for 2 weeks at a time. It's going to keep happening, maybe longer. We are going to have to, every activity we do, we're going to have to factor in things like social distancing and keeping everyone's health first. But it's clear that, well, we have to do that. That is not something that's going to stop the priorities and the goals and the little missions and the little initiatives that we're working on. It's something that's we're just going to have to adjust to, and it's good practice to adjust to it. If we can adjust to it, well, we have a march. We can certainly adjust to it in our personal lives and the issues it's bringing up there.
Some awesome stuff right there, Ezra, and appreciate all of those comments. Before we kind of close out, Chandler, I'll go to you with this one, because it's a lot of what Ezra said in terms of physically what you are able to do throughout these COVID times and with code. But what about the mental health part of all of this? How has being a part of code helped you and maybe your fellow members adjust to the mental side of all the challenging aspects that COVID has brought about?
So for me, I definitely, it gets really draining doing the same thing every day, and spending so much time with, I love the people I spend my time with, but it does get kind of draining to not see like a couple new people here and there, talk to people that you don't talk to every day. So with us being able to meet with Code, because a lot of the members of Code I was friends with prior to Code being an organization, it allows me to not only just like talk about some of the things going on in the world, but I get to just like talk to people. So it's helped me tremendously. Like I look forward to Sundays, so when we meet, so I can talk and to see my friends.
Great stuff. Thank you, Chandler. Thank you all for joining us. Dane, we'll have you kind of close it out here. What are some of the goals, the vision, maybe the benchmarks sort of going forward for Code? What would you like to see happen over the next month, few months, whatever time period? But yeah, we'd just love to hear from you with that.
Absolutely. So some of the continued goals and the vision of Code, for sure. I think one of them definitely is to raise awareness for women empowerment and education. We have a lot of members, we have a lot of women of color within Code, and I think having a demonstration, having a march that really underscores that, really emphasizes that, will help, will help empower them and embolden them, you know what I mean, to continue to advocate for, women empowerment, not only within campus, but maybe within their own communities and beyond, right? So definitely raising awareness about any social injustice, any social unrest, or any reform needs to happen. Also, I think definitely reaching out to the youth, because the youth are our future. And so, like I said, just planting little seeds and dropping little nuggets into them so that they can grow up knowing that someone that looks like me, or someone that looks like Chandler, or Lyn'Nikka, um, we want to pour into them. You know what I mean? We want to invest in them. We care about them. We want them to succeed. Definitely something as well. And I think also just actively recruiting students of color, prospective students of color, to attend Tennessee Tech University and see what this great university has to offer. I know that JT, myself, and Dr. Baker have talked about being on a radio call so that we can call students and their families and let them know what Tennessee Tech has to offer. The abundance of, or the plethora of opportunities academically, socially. If they're into athletics, we can let them know about that too. Just to let them know that Tennessee Tech can be their home for the next 4 years. I think that's big for us moving forward. So yeah, I'd say those three things are what we're looking forward to, to accomplishing moving forward.
Well, that's fantastic. Some great stuff there out of Dane. I think we'll wrap up now this episode of Wings Up Weekly. I want to say thank you to all of you, Chandler, Dane, Lyn'Nikka, Ezra. Thanks for coming on this episode. What you guys are doing, what this organization is doing, is awesome. And just to continue to keep that going, and we'll see it on social media. We'll see it on future podcast episodes as well. So just a big thank you to the four of you. And that'll do it. We appreciate them for joining us and everything. And we'll close out our time here. Another episode of Wings Up Weekly.